I was introduced to the world of sales training and development and to coaching and to leadership development and really to living intentionally, setting goals by a man named Warren Lewis. If you've been around me for a while, you've heard this name. Warren was my guy when it comes to the work that I do today. Warren was introduced to me by my father, Wayne Herring Sr., when I joined my dad's company, Preferred Warranties. And Warren at that time was a Sandler sales trainer. He had been a Sandler sales franchisee. And he worked with my team. He worked with my sales managers. He worked with the whole executive team at my company. But most important for me is he helped me to communicate with my dad. But then later on, he helped me, as I said, to live intentionally and to pursue the idea of a created life, writing a 10-year vision, a 3-year vision, setting goals, and then doing the small steps along the way that were going to help me reach that goal. Several years ago, Warren and I sat down and we had a pretty long conversation, particularly about selling and about sales management and about how business builders can build a sales team and how business builders can help salespeople to be effective, keep them on track. How do you know when to give them a performance improvement plan, when to fire them, how to hire them, how to find the best, how to help them prospect, how to coach them when they're down in the dumps. We cover a wide range of topics in this interview, and although it's pretty long, I encourage you to listen, take notes, go back to it if you have to, leave it. I think you're going to hear some gold and some gems in here that are going to make you want to not just listen into the car while you're exercising, but listen to it again when you have a notebook and a pen and can take some notes and really think about how can you shift and adjust as a business owner to maximize the likelihood of success of your enterprise, your individual salespeople, you, etc. Warren Lewis is quite possibly, even though he was a little bit older, quite possibly one of the best salespeople I've ever met. And his ability to convey a simple system is second to none. So I encourage you to give this a chance. It's very relevant in 2023 or 24, whenever you listen to it, just as it was when I recorded it back in 2019. And beyond that, Warren Lewis was a gem of a man, and I appreciate you listening to his words so that his legacy can live on. He would want you to keep going and to build your business and thrive. Welcome to the Business Builder Way podcast, where we help business builders grow leadership skills and wisdom and stay grounded through hero stories. So let's get after it.
So everybody, welcome. And Warren, thanks again for being here. I'm so grateful. And I think all of you have seen me gush a bit in emails and tell you why I think you should be here and why this is a special privilege to be joined by Warren, who's been a great friend and mentor for a number of years, probably about 13 years. Now, I think it was 2004. Warren, when my dad introduced the two of us. Warren was our executive coach when I was at Preferred Warranties when we were building a sales team. He was a sales trainer, did many sales training calls with my sales team, listened to me many times when I was having challenges and difficulties with a variety of things in business, and I want to get more to having a discussion with him than me talking. Yeah, with that, Warren, maybe you could just share with us a little bit about your career and some of the businesses that you worked in and started and how you got to consulting. Would you mind doing that?
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me to work with you today. It's really a pleasure because I've worked with Wayne and Wayne's companies and Wayne's people for years, as Wayne just mentioned to you. And when you work with Wayne, you're working with a star. I wish I had, over the years, all the clients like Wayne. My job would have been, I probably wouldn't have had that many clients because Wayne's doing so well. But it It's just a pleasure to work with a guy who, when you talk about management situations and sales situations and the guy questions you and you develop the plan, then he just goes and does it. It's like Nike. You just go do it. I enjoyed working with Wayne. On to your questions, Wayne. I got in my working environment when I was young, went to work for a car dealer in the back shop, and then through the help of my father, bought into the Chevy Buick deal, and that company is still in our family today. My three sons run that company, the Chevy Buick deal in Elmira. I've had a lot of successes and I've had a lot of failures. And that, those of you in sales should relate to that, because you got to get a lot of no's before you get a yes. And I thought it was really good in the car business as we went along, and I bought auto companies in the late 70s, early 80s. And for those of you, none of you are as old as I am, but we were highly leveraged, and we had our businesses when we bought in at about a 4% interest, and within a year and a half, they went to 22%. That's how you can get the business failure, because the companies just couldn't support themselves. We've had leasing companies. We've had, I think one of the real wins we had was what they call an aftermarket company in the auto business. It's paint sealants and fabric protectors and rust proofing and stuff like that. We started a company in Pittsburgh, and that was highly successful. We had a finance company that we started in Elmira, and it grew to about 10 different offices. And the people were terrific, and we won the Entrepreneur of the Year award through Inc. magazine and Ernst & Young CPAs. We had about 200 employees when we were invited to Palm Springs. So we didn't win the national, but I'm really proud of our group. We got home, and Penny and I were really pleased with the company was going, and we got fired a month later. So I know what it's like to get fired from my own company. Started my consulting business, which is where Wayne and I come from, and spent 20 years in that. We really developed a lot of good clients and had a lot of fun in that business. And that was, like Wayne said, the executive management coaching and sales coaching business. So I hope that wasn't too much, Wayne, but that's my background. Now I'm 55 years married to my beautiful wife, and we have 3 sons and wonderful daughters-in-law and 6 grandkids and a great-granddaughter. So now I'll shut up, Wayne. You can do what you need to do. Ask me questions.
And those things are the big successes, for sure. A great family who have enjoyed getting to meet. One of the things we talked about this morning that I asked if you would share would be, we have some salespeople on the line, we have some business owners, we have one VP of sales on the line running a sales force. But what maybe your favorite success story of somebody you worked with who had a major turnaround?
The nice thing I think about what we're doing today is I've sat in the owner's, president, CEO's chair, and I've also sat in the sales chair. I enjoy both of them. Individual that I think I can recall that I enjoyed her success the most was a gal pretty early on in my consulting career that she was referred to me and called me on the phone, and shortly after we began to talk, she was in tears. She worked for a national investment advisory group, and I'll be careful that I won't mention names or anything, but her boss hiring her to make a couple hundred phone calls a day, and how can you imagine a couple hundred cold calls a day? And she was getting, with her script, about 6 appointments, I think, over a week or 2. And she said, I think I'm failing. I think I'm going to get fired. So we made an appointment. She came to the office and we talked. I said, can you not tell your boss the entire truth that I'm telling you to do? In other words, I don't want you to make 200-300 calls again each day. I want you to make 25. Follow what we coach. And long story short, she started to do that. And she began to set about 6 appointments a week with the 25 calls a day. And within a year, about a year and a half, she called me and told me that she was promoted to branch manager. And to this day, I know she's doing very well in the company. So that was, I think, the individual success that I can often think about the most, Wayne.
Can you recall something that changed in what she was doing, in the calls that she was making? What was the big turnaround?
I think so. And you can imagine, for those of you who have made a lot of phone calls, when you make a couple hundred calls a day and you follow a script, it just becomes so monotonous, there's no excitement. When you reduce that to 25 calls, 20, 30 calls a day, and really care about the call, your whole attitude changes. And that's one of the major keys in sales, as those of you know. Her whole attitude changed, and she became really interested in bringing value to the people that she was talking to, and that's how she got so many in appointment calls, or calls when she made appointments when she made the calls. Her attitude changed the most.
That fits well with something that we talked about this morning too, that it'd be great if you shared, and that is, a few times lately you've said to me this kind of catchphrase that selling, and over the years you've said, selling is easy, don't make it hard. Could you elaborate on why you say that, and maybe share the 3 points that you shared with me earlier today?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. And if you want to fill in the blanks, Wayne, you feel free to, okay? A lot of salespeople and a lot of business owners make sales difficult. And they do it because they have to remember all these. How many closes do you have to remember? And how many times do you have to practice asking particular questions? And it just goes on. And they work so hard on technique that when they get in on a sales call, they forget. They forget what they memorized. And the call becomes very difficult and usually not successful. When I say make the sale easy, I think I always had to, and I think my good clients had to, keep it simple. There are 3 things I think you need to concentrate on, as I shared with you earlier, Wayne, and I called my website VAT Coach, VAT. You have to do the right A, you have to have the right attitude, you have to feel good about yourself and feel that you're bringing value to your prospect and your client. You have to have the right behavior. That's the behavior, the technique. You have to do the right behavior. You have to set the right goals. You have to write plans that if you accomplish them, they'll achieve the goals. And you have to put them into action. And I have a buzzword that I call a cookbook, which is a recipe that you do on a daily basis. And if you have the right attitude, feel good about yourself, we call it their identity. And if you do the right behavior, then the third thing is, and probably the least important, is the technique. I don't believe in memorizing all this stuff that often traditional training teaches you to do. I think you just have to have a few good 30-second commercial and a plan of what you're going to do in the first couple of minutes that you're going into a sales call. And from then on, you just play off your prospect and your customer and listen to them and be comfortable getting a no. It all depends what business you're in. You got to get a lot of no's before you got to get a yes. So be okay with that. People aren't rejecting you. They're just not, they don't have a need. They don't think they have a need or a hurt for what your product or service is. So keep it simple. Get the right attitude, do the right behavior, and do a couple of very simple techniques, which is the 30-second call and what you do to start a sales call, and et cetera.
What would be your best advice to a business owner who has a small squad of salespeople, or there's a couple of sales managers or VPs on the line who have a few more people, more 10 or 12, and one person, Mike, has several regional managers who each have a squad of 5 to 8 people? How does a sales manager help people with those 3 things?
It's interesting that you asked that, because my involvement with clients always started with the head honcho. I had to go in and see the owner or the president or the CEO, and often the conversation went directly to sales. And they would say something like, fix them. And I often laughed about it. Who's them? Fix my sales department. They aren't selling enough, kind of thing. I kind of laughed, and we had developed a little bit of bonding, and I said, usually the problem starts at the top, so maybe we ought to talk about you, and then we'll talk about your people. So if we take a look at ourselves, we say, okay, we probably ought to take a look at what we're doing, thinking before we talk about helping other people. If I'm answering your question properly, Wayne, I think you got to bring the right people on board. Well, how do you get the right people? I think you got to benchmark your position, and I think you got to do some assessments that are directed to the benchmark, and then you got to do a good interview. And when you hire the person, you got to bring them on board properly. I call it onboarding. That's the buzzword in the business today. And onboarding them means don't bring them on board in the first day or two, hand them a briefcase and tell them they are one. You got to work with them. You got to coach them. I believe good salespeople really enjoy ongoing coaching, counseling, and reinforcement. They don't enjoy scripting. They don't enjoy going to one-day seminars because you forget about it in 30 days. Sales managers and owners without sales managers who directly work with their salespeople have to understand that salespeople need help. They want to be coached. They want to be evaluated. They want to be current. People are concerned about them, And you have to have a little outline of what your salespeople are to do, and then work with them and coach them. Business ownership and business management is a lot more than just hiring a sales manager, hiring salespeople. You need to work with them daily, constantly. It's the most important thing. Nothing happens till somebody sells something you've already got before. Does that help answer that question, or did I digress?
No, it's good. All this has been helpful. And by the way, so people on the line, if some of this now starts to get you thinking and there's a question you want to ask, I had a couple of questions that were submitted ahead of time that I'm going to make sure I ask Warren. But if some of this gives you some context for Warren, one thing I forgot to mention is, Warren, I asked you this morning how many businesses you thought you had worked with over the years, and you said something like 300 to 500, but I don't know. I've never really thought about that, which I know if we did the math, that means you've probably worked with 4,000 or 5,000 salespeople over the years. Some of it was doing training, sales training. Some of it was helping business owners, so maybe not directly. So everybody, if there's something that this makes you want to ask a question and I haven't asked it or gone deep enough, let me know. And then I'll interject that and put it in the question box, chat it in. We'll go from there. One of the things, Warren, it made me think of is I've heard salespeople say, I don't want to be micromanaged, and my manager's a micromanager. So how do you think a business owner or sales manager can work with their people, coach them, develop them without being a micromanager? What's the difference between constructive, solid work with people versus would be micromanagement?
I think that a sales manager or a business owner who directly is working with salespeople, you got to form a team of me working with you, you working with me. It shouldn't be. So many times I've run into managers who just keep score. Turn in your call sheet and let me calculate it out and give you hell if you didn't do enough and if you were failing in certain things. It wasn't a coaching situation. And I think that is primary, that you have to form a relationship team with people, and then you have to be sure that your people are doing the right things, because if you have an outline of what a person should be doing to get to a sales appointment, which we call the cookbook, and if on the sales appointment they do certain things in the first few minutes to get the sale rolling, then you should evaluate that. Your salesperson should evaluate that. You said, hey, when you leave a sales call, pull around the block and shut off your engine, fill out an evaluation sheet of how you did. And the way you can do an evaluation sheet is if you know what you should be doing on a sales call. And then you work with your sales manager, or the sales manager works with your sales consultant, and it's okay, I did this and this, but I missed this, why, and then you talk about it. And I think role playing is very important. A lot of sales managers and owners don't role play with their people. And frankly, I think because they don't want to show that they make mistakes. We know that sales is a business where you don't do it right all the time. Sales managers and owners should role play with their salespeople. And that's the way they get good. The manager gets good and the salesperson gets good. And last thing I want to mention to you on this particular thing, Wayne, and then you tell me if you want to talk about some detail on this, but I believe that you should sit down with your salesperson. As a manager, you should sit down with your salesperson, determine what goals are. What are your goals for your day, for your week, for your month, for your quarter, for your year? And put those down in writing. And then what am I going to do to achieve those goals? We call that a plan. What are you going to plan? What's your plan to achieve those goals? And then you drop down to the third thing. What do I have to do on a daily basis to achieve my plan, to achieve my goals? And if we construct a good system with our people to write your goals, write your plan, and write your daily behavior, then it's easy to coach back. Then you talk about your daily behavior. What did you do that's going to achieve your plan, to achieve your goals? It seems to work very easily, and this falls into the selling is easy if you just want to do a few things. Sales is sales 101. It doesn't have to be sales 102 and 3 and 4. Just keep it simple and have fun and enjoy it. That's the best thing.
What would flip it around? I'm going to flip it around a bit. If you were a salesperson, how do you get the most from your relationship with your sales manager, business owner? What advice would you have for approaching interactions? So there's two sides to micromanagement. Sometimes salespeople say they're being micromanaged and it's a defensive thing, or it's a just leave me alone, I want to go do my own thing. Any thoughts for the other side of that, salespeople, how they can get the most out of the relationship with their...
I'm just thinking off the top of my head. First thing is to my manager, And again, you got to develop a good rapport. You got to be able to share with your manager. I would say, I don't want any games played. So let's not play any games. I want you to be straight with me. I'll be straight with you. An evaluation process. I want to know how I'm doing as far as what you would like me to be doing. So let's set up an evaluation process. And really, what I just shared with you a few minutes ago, the goals, plan, action is a very good evaluation process. Then the person helps construct the goals, plans, and action, and they can help evaluate themselves with their manager. I think the third thing I'd ask for, proper training. Again, I don't believe in these one-day seminars. They're just lousy. I believe in ongoing coaching, counseling, reinforcement. Good managers want to give that to their salespeople, and good salespeople want to get whatever they can in the technology end, in the good role playing. I think you should look for groups that salespeople get together in groups, maybe once a month or once every quarter. Get together with other salespeople that are better than you are, that are doing better than you are. Tap their brains, just do that too. So I think I'd look for that if I was a salesperson. No games, a good evaluation process, and give me the help I need in technology, equipment, training.
Thank you for tuning into the Business Builder Way podcast. If this episode spoke to you, click that subscribe button and share it with a friend. That's how this message gets out into the world. If it is helpful for us to have a short conversation, I'd love to do that. Send me an email at wayne@businessbuildercamp.com.